Hello, hello. I feel like I'm finally getting the LinkedIn live, from when I push start to when the delay happens to when I'm actually live. So I'm hoping that you weren't just sitting here watching me for a bit, lick my lips and stuff, and that we're actually that time frame is shortening. I'm getting better at it. So, anyways, though, I'm excited. Welcome everybody to the weekly live broadcast of uh, Career Alchemy. I am your host, Lori Swanson, the CEO of Inspire Tech and the founder of Career Alchemy Academy, a membership community for women connecting their careers to more joy, more inspiration, their authentic selves, who they are today. We work on everything from your traditional job search, career strategies, leadership development, presence development, visibility, how you get alignment and agreement in your career, how you deliver with excellence, all of those things. And we're also bringing in that more spirit-centered approach to our lives and our careers, a little more calming, a little more grounded, more centered, and more connected, not only to ourselves, not only to others, but to divine guidance. So if that sounds exciting, it is. You're right. And click on the QR code. I don't even think I'm using the right QR code right now. In fact, I don't have it there. So I can do that while we're live. I can adjust to the actual QR code so that you can uh, join right now if that's what you want to do. And you can also, the QR code or what I had, the background that I had right there that was on there was one I use inside of Career Alchemy Academy. I should really show that. What's cool about it is that I keep front and center. Let me go back to it. Front and center the pillars of Career Alchemy Academy. So your vision, your path, and what I call your foundation or kind of the essential tools of what we're learning inside of Career Alchemy Academy. So the vision pillar that we work on is really your ideal role, aligning with your values, being clear about how you're making decisions as you go through any sort of transformation or pivot in your career, expanding it, adding to it, um, even in some ways or in some cases, simplifying, right? And then as we have that clear vision of where we're going, then we work on the path. Those are the three VIPs, your very important projects that you're working on every month to make sure that you're continuing to move forward in the direction that you want to go, making adjustments. We don't do these long, we have the vision, of course, but we do things in shorter increments. So it is agile, right? So you can pivot and move. And so the three VIPs, whatever your very important projects are for this month. And then we're always focused on visibility, alignment and agreement, and delivery. So visibility within your organization, visibility in your career, visibility outside of your organization, visibility on a job search. There's all different kinds of ways that you can create more visibility for yourself. And that might be one of your three VIPs for the month is to develop more visibility. And then we focus on that. Alignment and agreement is that just what it says, that as you move through a job search or a promotion cycle or a career transition of any sort, that you're getting alignment from those that you need alignment from. And that could also include your family, right? And an agreement, we're in agreement that this is where we're going. And so in some ways, it's that sales part of uh, the path, because in sales you want to get agreement that you have a problem and I can solve it, or I have a problem and you can help me solve it. We get a alignment that we know what the problem is, we know how we're going to solve it, and then we get agreement that we're going to work together to do it. And then finally delivery, meaning that that you're just creating satisfaction for yourself, for your team, for your work, for your company, that you're fulfilling the promises that you've set out in the agreements. And and so it's really cool, your path. That's very much, I would say, the day to day of what's happening inside of Career Alchemy Academy at the live coaching and in between sessions. And then finally, the foundational tools, that's the mindset, that's doing retrospectives to make sure that you're finding what worked, what didn't work, what you're going to do differently. And then, like I said, that SQ, it's not your EQ, it's not your IQ, but we focus on your um, spiritual intelligence, your SQ, that inner authority, and building that trust with yourself and building that power center. So I guess I'm just trusting that I was supposed to talk to you about Career Alchemy Academy because that was the background that I had when we started. And now we have the QR code if you want to join. So you can go there and do that. But now's the time we focus on our topic of the day. So I thought this is a really interesting topic to discuss. It's called invisible work versus invisible workload. So invisible work, invisible workload. And there, the invisible workload, especially as it relates to women, has been something that has is been at the forefront, rightfully so, of conversation in many ways. That we are really starting to recognize, um, the added work that we do as women. Um, because of cultural constructs, because of a shifting in how families are. And that created a shift in, women entering the workforce. And this has been over decades. And I feel like in some ways that we kept trying to do everything we were doing before we were all in the workforce and really enjoying the benefits of that. And it's I couldn't imagine my life without my career. It's I can say it is my identity. It's part of my identity. It brings me so much joy, like as did my kids, and raising my kids, so much growth, so much joy, so many awesome memories, both though, both, right? But I think when even I noticed, even with myself, not having ever heard the term invisible workload in my 20s, but then later on, and I'm like, oh yes, I see it. I see how I'm doing all the things I would have been doing if I hadn't had a career and my career, right? That I hadn't offloaded as much. I offloaded some stuff. My husband, okay, I say I offloaded it. My husband does all the laundry. We're I think in many, many ways, we have a really equal partnership, and that we each do things that we're good at, which is an interesting thing. Like, he is much better at laundry than I am. I used to do it, but then I stopped. And there's other things too, right? But it was just such a recognition that there's these things that are just happening without me even knowing it, that I'm just taking on, I'm doing, organizing the family vacations and all of these things, just because that's kind of what came forward, consciously, unconsciously, um, through culture and through modeling, from my grandparents and from my parents and some of that stuff, that you just do it without thinking. So, all to say that I want to specifically talk about, though, the career invisible work and the career invisible workload, and what is the differences between those two. And how this all happened was, we were at a career alchemy session, and one of the women was talking about an event that she was at recently at her new company. So she had just recently gotten her new job, and was going to the first big company event, and she didn't know a lot of people because she was new there. She was standing in line and started chatting with the person next to her, and in that process, they realized she was able to say, who she was. She was this new hire, and this was the job she was hired for. And he was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be some overlap between what I am doing and what you're doing. We should definitely, talk about this. And so they set up a meeting for the future, but she was said, I would not have known about him for a while. It's a large organization, right? She said this wouldn't be someone that I necessarily thought to reach out to immediately. But because of just the coincidence of standing in line next to him, it's helping her to be connected in a different part of the organization that she may not have been connected to for who knows how long. So, and it was done so simply. And someone, as she was telling the story, someone typed in chat, that's invisible work. And I'm like, yes, that is invisible work. That's like, um, something working for you without even trying. So, so let's talk a little bit more so I can, invisible work helps you create new relationships like it did in her case. It helps to, deepen connections or create new connections for sure. It grows your visibility. We talked about visibility just now, grows your visibility inside of your organization. It can also just invisibly be growing your visibility outside of your organization. It helps to build a work reputation. It can shorten your path to promotions. It can, and recognition and career acceleration. Like invisible work works without trying. That's the real beauty of it. It isn't something that of course, we put um, visible thought, and intention on our careers and where we want to take it next and how are we going to do that, right? What skill gaps do I have? What title am I searching for? Those sorts of things. So we do have intentional plans, but and I think by having those intentional plans, like this is where I want to go, that gives invisible work the opportunity to work for you and create these pathways for you without you even knowing that that is a pathway, without you even having to try. Where the invisible workload, again, related to career, involves things that you might decide to do or say yes to doing that stall your career. And there has been a lot of talk, I think, around about the invisible workload at work as well, but I'm going to talk about it some more because you might, depending on where you were at when you first heard about it, but given where you're at now, it could be just further along in your career. Maybe you're in a different company and all of a sudden you're going to hear some of these things I'm going to list off and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. I have taken on the invisible workload. So the invisible workload, again, really can stall your career. It could be work that you're doing that goes unrecognized. It definitely, you could be getting a little squishy with your boundaries when the invisible workload is increasing. There's often a boundary, um, uh, you know, issue that's happening. And so invisible work works for you in your career, where the invisible workload works against you in your career. It can both be subtle and quiet and happen without your knowledge. You might not even be aware of their happening until the positive outcome or the negative outcome occurs. Um, so if the consequences uh, of the invisible workload were not so detrimental to your career and to your health and to your relationships, it might not matter this kind of subtle stuff that's happening, but it does matter. It really does matter. And the more that you can engage with the invisible work working for you, the better. So let's just really call out what is invisible workload. What does that look like on a day to day? So it's where looking around a meeting and the person who's always taking notes or planning team events. It's being the default fixer of problems, both people problems and logistical problems and things like that within the organization. And again, these are not things, when we talk about the invisible workload, we're talking about things that are not in your job duties specifically. These are things that are happening kind of outside of what your role is. So doing extra admin work, or onboarding people without getting any credit for it. Again, it's not part of your job, but you're just doing it. Getting asked to help. This one, like I said, because you're good at it. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you need to be doing it. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit about the fact that when you take on the invisible workload, you also could be taking away from someone who the invisible workload for you is actually um, is something that will advance their career and grows their skill set. But when we take it on, we're keeping it from someone else. Like that, the things we're good at, let's let someone else who's maybe not so good at it yet become good at it, right? Um, Same thing with like, well, I think that's a really good example. And then other ways that invisible workload can show up are volunteering, not because of it adds to your growth or is a really good bullet point on your performance, um, like your organizational impact within your performance review, but that it's more out of guilt that you're doing it, or serving on committees with no recognition or support, taking on emotional labor for team vibes without support, or shadow managing a project without the title, the credit, or the pay. And again, even when and I've worked on this with my private coaching clients, because I think it does come up at times where we have projects in our, under our umbrella of things, and some that we're directly responsible for, and then some that we are kind of um, indirectly, I don't know if it's indirectly responsible for or kind of the sub responsibility in that project. But the next thing we know, we're managing it. And so, uh, and that could be because we might feel like, which is a thought we want to get rid of, like, if I don't do it, it won't be done right, or I don't have the time to mentor that person right now, so I'm just going to do it, and so that really is an invisible workload for you. Sometimes it's true. It might take a little bit longer. It might take a little more of your time, but that's all short term, right? And so I want to just say, I'm not talking about, like, let's say volunteering, for instance, or something like that, or uh, shadow managing a project. I'm not saying that we don't do things just because out of the generosity of our heart, um, or that we aren't maybe opportunistically doing some things. Um, but we really need to look at them and know, am I doing this am I doing this because this feels like fun to me? Like, that's one of the reasons I do things, but I can tell you there was a point in my schedule where I'm like, all of these feel like fun and I have no time to just chill. Like, I had to let go of even the fun things. That's how I stack my workload, is even because my justify in my head that, well, this feels like fun, but in fact, it really wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping my health. And it also, when we're so overbooked and overscheduled, even if they're fun, um, other areas are not going to be able to fully develop, or will not develop. Like, for instance, building my Career Alchemy Academy, which is one of my goals, is to get more and more people in there that it makes sense for, to get sort of, more people to be aware of it, more people to see the support in it and understand how it could help them. And if I'm also helping on this really cool project over here, I'm spending less time over there, right? And so that, even though they're all cool, fun, and interesting, I have to say no. That's the squishy boundary. And so um, I'm not saying that we don't do some things, even if they aren't going to be a sexy, bullet point on our resume or on LinkedIn, or if they aren't going to help our performance appraisal. I'm not saying we don't do that, but be very clear that when you're spending time or saying yes to time over here, you're saying no to these other areas within your career and giving them additional attention. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about invisible workload. There is, now let's talk about the career. That's the career stalling, right? Let's talk about the career building invisible work. So invisible work is not flashy. It may not be immediately measurable, but it builds trust, it builds influence. Like I said, it builds relationships, it builds momentum, um, often quietly under the radar, but a lot of ease. You might like one day be like, how did that happen? That would have been invisible work working for you. So things like that, ways in which you create the opportunity for invisible work is by being present in meetings. For example, it's not a hardship for you to be fully present in the meetings, even if you're not actively speaking. So, but by being present, you're absorbing context, you're noticing dynamics, you're building rapport, just by, you know how it feels when someone is just paying full attention to you. It feels good, right? And so you can be that person, and that's invisible work. You're building this rapport. You're not doing anything, but you're building this rapport. You're building this trust. You're building this camaraderie, and you're gathering data about dynamics and context that may be useful later, but really just by paying attention and leaning into somebody. Another way is mentoring. So you can mentor others behind the scenes. Um, but I want to distinguish that from, becoming the psychologist of all of the people on your team, or the person that they come to with all their problems and they dump all that and they walk away and then you're left with it, right? Like there's a difference between that and really mentoring someone that just joined. I don't care, if they're 25 years in their career and they've taken on a senior VP role, they could use your support, right? So just doing that for a new employee, a younger employee, someone who's new to the team, someone who's new to the, this part of the organization, who's taking on new skills, giving back, that can be just invisible work. You're supporting someone else, you're giving to someone else, and behind the scenes, you're not looking for any credit, but who knows where that might lead. Another way that invisible work could be happening, or how you can create invisible work to happen for you, I guess, is by having a calm center. So I think that invisible work works best when you're creating that energy of calm, that energy of groundedness. As you come into meetings, it helps to reduce tense situations. If a tense situation things start to escalate in a meeting, again, you're not doing anything. It isn't externally look like you're doing anything, but internally you can be sending them peace. And I may have talked about the angel in the corner before, but I used to be very much involved with personal growth community, and when people were doing a lot of detail work, there would always be someone that was just standing in the corner, being the calm center and sending those vibes out, because there is some evidence that that entrainment type of idea, where the person that's holding the highest, most positive energy in the room, that will entrain all the other energies, will call them up to that place, right? And so you can be that person in a meeting doing very, very little, but breathing out calm, breathing out quieting energy, reducing stress. So I just think that's a great way to create positive, you're being sort of invisible work right there. And another way is in a meeting, you may, because you're calm, cool, collected, when there's confusion starting to happen, you could be the person that brings clarity in order to keep momentum going. That's invisible work. Being a low-key connector across teams can, again, build your reputation, build trust. Those are all the things that invisible work does. And it isn't adding to your workload at all. It's something you can do very simply, very quietly. You can prep others to shine. You can invite someone you don't know to join your group at an event. You can volunteer strategically for work that expands your visibility. And so all of these things, you're creating this invisible work that works for and builds your career. So it's subtle but important difference between invisible work and invisible workload. Invisible work, again, it builds trust behind the scenes. While you stand in line at an event, you meet people, it earns quiet influence, it moves projects forward, it moves meetings forward, it speeds up decisions without you burning out or feeling resentful or barely lifting a finger. You've created for yourself some of this invisible work that's working for you. And the trick is just getting good at spotting the difference and doing less of the things that are going to eventually create resentment in yourself, create burnout, noticing that this is something that you can really tell, like, this is something I'm doing and it just feels good. And it's relaxing, really. That's how you're creating invisible work that's working for your career. So, and I think the big thing is this invisible work that you're creating through these vibes and everything eventually becomes visible. So, hello promotion, hello raise, hello career growth, hello someone reaching out and asking you, if you're interested in this opportunity, or to be on a board, or to speak at an event, or to join their organization with an increased salary, with an increased title, and all these things that you've been hoping for. So hello career visibility. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. The difference between invisible work working for you in your career and the invisible workload that works against you, your career, your health, your relationships, all of that. Let's spot the difference. Have you ever played those games? There's I forget, my stepdad sends myself and my daughter this every day. It's called Spot the Difference. And there's the two pictures and you have to spot the difference, right? And so this picture over here is the invisible work, and that's you can see this person is sitting very calmly in a meeting, just kind of leaning in and listening, right, paying attention and giving someone attention. And this person is you know standing in a line at an event, helping someone understand the dynamics of this new organization that they joined, or making introductions for them, being sort of that sponsor that opens doors. That's that picture. And then over here, you have the person whose face just looks ragged, and their body is, showing the burden of a workload that doesn't help their career, even though originally they thought it might, right? Sometimes we think, oh, this is what I'll do to become more visible, but it isn't working, yet I keep doing it. Don't say bye-bye to that. So that's it for today. The next 2 weeks, I believe we're at a different time. I'll be on Tuesdays due to some scheduling stuff happening. I think it's at 2:00 Central Time on the 10th and the 17th, Tuesday, for LinkedIn Live. And of course, below here in LinkedIn, you can read the blogs so you can click through my articles and things, and this blog will be there and previous blogs will be there. You can also follow the QR code and become a member of Career Alchemy Academy. You join for 6 months. You get to really steep yourself in it. And if you love it, you keep going. People like to keep going. And then, and what else can I say? I think that's it for now. Peace. Have a great weekend. And I look forward to the rest of your week and your weekend and everything that's coming up. And really practice just being sort of doing that invisible work vibe that's going to return to you, opening doors, connecting of resources, opportunities that you may come out of the blue. Watch the invisible work working for you. So talk to you soon. Enjoy.